Brian, what do you do, or what's your process for prioritizing feature requests from your customers? How do you decide whether the feature request is just a distraction, or if it's actually, there's weight to it, and if it's actually an insight, and that it's worthy of being implemented?
Prioritizing feature requests is an art, not a science. Many people have tried to make it a science, but let's discuss it. Bill Joy's law about talent was always something that stuck with me, which he said, the smartest people exist outside your company. And some of the best feedback will happen outside of your company. And you have to be okay with that. And that starts with radical candor, that starts with some humility, and one has to be willing to accept criticism in order to take any product to the next level. I have basically a subconscious exercise where I put people into buckets, first-time users, slightly advanced users, proto-users, like the type of people that you would want to build the entire app around, and then I have a very small cohort of individuals that I will call product geniuses, and I'm willing to listen to them on virtually anything that they have to say. But it is important to first be able to break the type of feedback up and tie it to the type of person that you're getting it from. I'll explain why. The first question you have to ask yourself when getting feedback on a product is, why is this person giving me feedback? People give feedback for a reason, and you have to determine what that reason is. So there's going to be a first class of person that bitches and moans about everything. And you have to know that these are the type of people that like to voice their frustration. They like to write terrible Yelp reviews. They like to assassinate products in public. And these are people to pay attention to because they have a strong voice. It doesn't mean they dictate the direction of your product, it just means that you know that these people exist. The second type of person is what I'll call smarty pants. These are people that appeal to their quote-unquote intellectual capabilities, and they want to show you how smart they are with their ideas about your product. They're fine too. Sometimes these people have brilliant ideas. Oftentimes they're just trying to act smart. And the third user is someone that I would say is more of just trying to be helpful. They don't really have intention. They don't really understand what you're doing. They don't get the big picture, but they're also not there to assassinate you. They're there to push you forward. These people matter as well. So after we've applied some labels to different groups of users, then you get the feedback. And I think one of the things here is this is where low ego, I didn't say no ego, but low ego is incredibly important. You have to start looking for patterns. You have to start understanding what people are saying, but decode what they're saying. Oftentimes, what they say is not what they mean. I'll give you an example. So there's this concept called preference falsification, which is people say one thing but mean something else. This happens a lot when it comes to feedback around products, especially with those who are close to you and don't want to hurt your feelings. Remember one thing, the people who are the closest to you are oftentimes the people that will lie to you the most. I highly suggest that you pick people who have some distance from you personally. As we all know, the people that lie to you the most are oftentimes the people that love you the most. And it's very hard to get real, radical, sharp feedback out of these types. It doesn't mean that you don't listen to some of these people that are very close to you. They can be the source of tremendous inspiration and innovation and ideas, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You have to sort of surf around and get opinions from people that have some distance from you. When you're talking about your product to people, language matters. Again, humans are not designed to give harsh, negative feedback to people that they are friendly with. So one thing that I like to do is if I know the person on the other side, and I know them well, if I'm soliciting feedback, I'm saying things like, don't worry, I'm not going to get offended. Please give me the harshest criticism you can. It makes me better. I've done this 1,000,000 times. It's okay. Give it to me. You have to come at people direct and use language that allows them to pull away some of that bullshit and get to the essence of whatever it is you're trying to determine is the right answer. The last thing and the most important thing is that you can have a point of view. You can have a radical stance, an opinion about a product. But every single day that you're talking to more people is another day that you could pollute that vision. And it's okay to get out there and get real feedback. It's actually incredibly important. But it is not as important as having a vision, a stance, an actual point of view where you know what the line looks like. Hold the line. There is no customer development in the world on par with building a product for yourself that you believe in, that you want to see in the world.
Really enjoyed that. We've been like intaking customer feedback over the last couple of days, and I just played that whole shit storm, I believe is the term that you used earlier for my team, to give us a better just reference point on here's some buckets that we can put these customers into. And it's crazy how well defined those personas are and how much of the feedback can be placed in those places. And we deal with a lot of like customer feedback because, well, we don't have a lot of friends and family who need sales enablement tools, but it helped immediately, at least me, it helped clear up a lot of the fuzzy edges around like, well, I think this feedback is good, but what do we do with it? And are they correct? Is this really what they want? So really great. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. That was great. Very enjoyable.
Thank you for the positive feedback. That was simply a stream of consciousness. And I forgot to mention one thing. Oftentimes, when you're thirsty for product feedback, you react to the last piece of feedback that you received. It doesn't matter if it was a family member, a team member, an expert, potential enemy. For some reason, humans are hardwired to hold the last piece of feedback in their brain and give that prominence, that like last temporal piece of feedback, especially when you're thirsty for trying to understand what you're doing. And one of the things that I do is I try to distance myself from that last piece of feedback. So for example, it could be something I really believe in, and at that time I'm really excited about. I give it 12 hours, I give it 24 hours. I don't react immediately, because oftentimes, you give yourself a little bit of buffer and you say, yeah, that wasn't so relevant, or that was really insightful. But giving yourself just a tad bit of padding allows you to take the emotion out of whatever it is that you're receiving, whatever information you're gathering. One of the most talented product people I've ever worked with was plagued by this disease. It didn't matter who he was talking to, the last person was always the most important. And he would jump on the phone and immediately expound on why this was the most brilliant insight he had ever heard. And once I understood this behavior, I would listen, I wouldn't say much, and I would say, hey, why don't we discuss this tomorrow? I think you have some good ideas here. And I basically cured him. Watching and listening to people talk about your product is oftentimes far more powerful than a personal interview. It is a hard environment to recreate because you want people to be in their natural state, but I can't underscore the importance of doing this. It removes you from the equation and allows you to be way more objective than simply throwing softball questions at people. Today we ran into a very sticky user experience problem, and we'd spent many hours trying to figure out a simple solution, and I opted for no solution. I said, we don't have it, let's walk away, let's come back later. And guess what? It works like a charm. Never seek product advice from people who are not consistently using your product.
Never build a product that you yourself are not consistently using.